Today, I would like to share with you the tips for using the displacement deformer in C4D. Through today's tutorial, you will master the core usage of displacement deformers and vertex maps. I hope it will be helpful for everyone to learn C4D through my experience sharing of using C4D for many years. To start today's tutorial, first create a disk object. The default parameters definitely do not meet the requirements of the replacement deformer, and the surface distribution needs to be adjusted. It is necessary to ensure that there are enough subdivided, polygonal surfaces to present a perfect replacement effect. First, demonstrate what most users would think of, and then explain the advantages and disadvantages. Create a standard material ball, add gradient to the color channel, and modify the type to circle. Modify the display accuracy of the material ball view. Assign a material ball to a disk object. Select a color information points for gradual change set to step. Select the white dot position and set it to 50%. Then select double knots with the right mouse button on the gradual change of color and repeat several times. Now you have a material with black and white rings evenly distributed. Find the displacer. If you are familiar with tool names, it is recommended that you use Shift+C to search. Assign a deformer to a disk child. Select the deformer in the property parameter bar. Click the shading bar and select the color of the channel. Select the material ball on the disk object and drag in the input information. Continue to create a new default material ball and give the object. The purpose is to overwrite the material ball. Select the deformer and set the replacement height to 2 centimeters. Continue to increase the number of subdivisions of the disk to see the complete replacement effect. While selecting the disk, press Alt to add a smooth subdivision surface object. The effect is too regular. If you need random rings, the thickness is very difficult to control. However, this method has the advantage that it can be deformed by noise waves. Reset gradual changes to default without repeating as much. This time, the front and rear are black, and the middle is white. Repeat the double knots several times. Click on the material ball color channel. Find distorter in effects type. Distorted input loading noise. Setting the size of the noise will affect the final shape of the gradual change. Set the XY parameter to get the displaced ring gradient effect. The specific parameters are adjusted according to your needs. This is the biggest advantage of the material ball as a replacement information. Gradient itself also has a turbulent deformation function. You can try it. I'll cancel this turbulence parameter first. Enable the displacer, then cover with a white shader ball. The effect displayed by the material ball is different from the effect of the model deformer. The reason is that the noise space is not UV to adjust the global size parameter of the noise. You can even animate the evolution of the noise. The project is set to 30 frames per second, and the total duration is 90 frames, which is 3 seconds. Then enter 3 for the loop point parameter. Now you can see that the animation loops seamlessly. These are the techniques that entry-level C4D users might use. Next, I will explain some of my own ideas, just for reference. Select the disk object and press the Alt keyboard to add the connection object. Select the connection object and right-click to find the vertex map in the Other label. Select Vertex Map label to create Sphere Field. Select the sphere field to see that there is a control point in the middle that can be pulled. The corresponding parameter is the internal offset. Some users may think that remapping parameters can also achieve the previous effect. That's right, choose the curve and contours mode. It's just that it becomes a curve adjustment mode, and the principle is the same. I won't go into details about this method in Vertex Map mode. it's not the technology I want to talk about. Select Vertex Map to add Formula Filter. Select Formula Filter to adjust frequency parameters. Isn't this super easy? You'll see the timeline even animated. Set the time to 1, and the animation will become very slow. Now the animation expands outward. If you need to contract inward, just set it to a negative number. Now the problem is that each ring is still average. There is no sense of randomness. Select the Vertex map label to create the folder. Put all the layers in the folder and rename them. Select the folder and right-click to copy. Then right-click and paste to modify the folder name. Expand folder Modify Formula Filter Parameters. Select the folder in the upper layer and change the blend mode to multiply. Now for the Vertex map, a randomly sized ring appears. Continue to add formula filters on this basis and see what happens. First change the time to 0 and then adjust the frequency. Now the random effect is even more obvious. Shift+C search Displacer. Specify children to the connection object. Displacer switch to shading panel load Vertex map in shading. Specify the Vertex map you just created. Then you'll find that it doesn't work. Heck! Select the Vertex map label. There is a mysterious parameter at play, that is, use the deformation point. This obscure parameter confuses many C4D users, including myself. Finally, adjust the height range of the replacement. Then add the smooth mesh subdivision object. Now it is the case of using one displacer. What if there are more than 2? Recreate the Vertex map label and rename it. It cannot have the same name as before. If the 2 labels have the same name, the deformer will have a recognition error. Select the newly created Vertex map label to create the shader field. Select shader field to load gradient in shader parameter. Type switch 2 to D circle. Select displacer to switch to field panel. Specify the newly created Vertex map label. Same problem, cancel the use of deformation points. Continue to create new displacer. Same as loading Vertex map label information. Specify the newly created Vertex map label. You can try adding animation effects depending on your needs. Today's displacer usage will be shared with you here. If you want to learn more practical and interesting C4D knowledge, you can join me Patreon. Thank you to the members who have supported me. Thank you for your support. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.